That's the recording started and the live stream is now on.
Okay, thank you. So welcome back everybody to the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board meeting today. I don't think we need to take another sediment. Folk have got their cameras on. I can see everybody's here. So we're just at item 9 today on the agenda, which is an application for occasional licences, repeated application policy, and it's a hearing, and it's for the Inverurie Whisky Shop, 55 to 57 Marketplace, Inverurie. I'll just welcome Mr. Stewart is in the meeting. So just to say, remember this board meeting will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting, and we are live streaming today, just so that you're aware. So I'll go first to Fiona, please, if you can outline the, well, confirm Mr. Stewart's here. Oh, I need to confirm Sarah Ward is here. She's standing in for Lisa Gadini today.
I am. Good afternoon.
Okay, so Mr. Stewart and Sarah Ward, are you satisfied that you've received all of the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Sarah, yeah, thank you. So in line with the guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphone when not speaking? If your phone permits this, please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt the other speakers. If you do, you may be removed from the meeting. Once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. Please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and I resume the meeting. At that point, the recording of the meeting will be restarted. So I will now ask the Deputy Clerk to introduce the report and confirm the procedure for the hearing.
Thank you, Convener. This report relates to applications for repeat occasional licences for routine trading, which are being brought to the board for determination as a result of the provisions of the board's repeated occasional licence policy. The report does include a history of the applications made to date, and the procedure today will be to hear from the applicant, to hear from Sarah, the Licensing Standards Officer. The applicant will be afforded the right of reply, questions by board members to all parties, concluding remarks in reverse order. So Sarah first and Mr. Stewart last, and then the board will move to make its decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, so I'll go first of all then to Mr. Stewart to outline the terms of your application to the board, and you might want to address some of the concerns raised in the objection at this time, which is just the repeated applications for occasional licences policy. And then you'll get further opportunity to address the board after other parties have spoken. So over to you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's as Fiona said, it's a continuation of regular trading. We moved into the premises in July last year and took transfer of a restaurant which had an unused space to the side of the building, which we wanted to convert into our shop. We've been trading on a different premises for 10 years now. We did some work on the building and got it ready for retail. We applied for occasional licenses so that we could start trading in the new premise before Christmas, and then moved in on the last weekend in November. Because that was a really busy trading period for us, getting the paperwork together and the exact kind of setup for a full application just wasn't quite possible until the start of this year, and that has now been put in. So we have a full application for a complete variation, major variation to bring everything into line, so that hopefully once these 4 occasional licenses have been put forward, hopefully approved, we will then be trading under a full license, which encapsulates the bar and the shop under the same premises.
Okay, thank you. So I'll now go to the Licensing Standards Officer, Sarah Ward, to speak to the LSO's representation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, convener and board members. So on behalf of my colleague Lisa Gadini, Licensing Standards Officer, the following report is in consideration in respect to the Licensing Board's policy for repeat occasional licence applications. These applications form a series of 9 previous applications, initially taking effect from the 24th of October 25, operating back-to-back and granted under delegated powers. The 4 applications before you today for consideration in respect of the policy propose to operate back-to-back from the 2nd of March until the 26th of April. As per the report, a major variation to add proposed retail space to current premises licence was lodged on the 3rd of February and sits with licensing for processing. If the board are minded to grant, then the report sets out a standard recommended conditions to be attached to each occasional licence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Mr. Stewart, is there anything you want to add, having heard from the LSO?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. Board members, have you any questions for either of the parties? No, I don't see any questions. So in that case, we'll just go to closing remarks then, starting with the LSO. Sarah Ward, please.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Stewart, do you want to say anything in closing?
No, nothing to add, thanks.
Okay. So do board members require any legal advice from the clerk?
No.
No. Okay. So will the Deputy Clerk please outline the terms of the legal test for this application?
Thank you, convener, and I can confirm that a major variation has been lodged, but it is still to go out to processing. The legal test is as set out in Appendix 4 of your papers. If you find any of the grounds of refusal apply, you must refuse the application. If you find that none of them apply, you must grant the application. And the grounds for refusal are set out at subparagraph 6. A, that the premises to which the application relates are excluded premises, and I can confirm that this does not apply in this case. B, that the application must be refused under certain sections of the Act, and again, this does not apply in this case. C, that the Licensing Board considers that the granting of the application would be inconsistent with one or more of the licensing objectives. D, that having regard to the nature of the activities proposed to be carried on in the premises to which the application relates, the location, character and condition of the premises and the persons likely to frequent the premises, the Board considers that the premises are unsuitable for use for the sale of alcohol, and bearing in mind the terms of the Board's repeat occasional licence policy for evidence that the applicant is moving towards a premises licence for the premises. Thank you, convener.
Okay, thank you. Do board members wish to retire to deliberate? I suspect not. No. So I can open the matter for debate. Does anybody want to come in? Ms. Black, please.
Yeah, just to say that you know, that this applicant is taking all the right steps. They've progressed for the full premises variation. So you know, this is the point of having this policy within our papers to try and make sure that people that are trading on occasional licenses move to a full premises license. So it doesn't seem that there's anything contentious here at all.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, convener. Rather similar, but just to add the points that the business has been in existence for quite some time, albeit at different premises. So this is an enlarged site, and he's already commented that starting just pre-Christmas, it'd obviously be a very busy period. And we've also heard that the application for a premises licence has been received. It's just still to be processed. So I'm very content.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, please.
Yeah, it's just to be mindful to board members that there actually is a premises licence already for part of this building. It's a major variation for the unit at the side, so it's a major variation to add to licence.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because it's the shop aspect of the business.
Correct, yes.
Okay, can members confirm you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, I would call for a motion, and I would suggest that we also include, if there's agreement, what to do with any future applications that come through in the meantime before the major variation is processed. If that takes too long, would we be able to delegate those? Ms. Black, please.
Yeah, so I'm quite happy to put forward the motion that we grant this. I'm very sorry. Very sorry about that. I would put forward the motion that we grant these applications, and that any future occasional licenses that come in whilst the major variation is being considered are delegated to officers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder, Mr. Menard?
Yeah, happy to second. Exactly the same wording I was going to use. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I would certainly agree with that myself. Are there any amendments? No. In that case, can we just get that motion rehearsed, Fiona, and then check and see if it's unanimous?
Yes, convener. So the motion is that the applications before the board today be granted, and I've assumed that that includes the recommended local conditions, and that while the major variation application is being processed, future applications for occasional licenses be dealt with by officers.
Okay, thank you. So is that unanimous?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't see any contrary view. So can you just confirm the board's decision, please?
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Thank you for waiting so patiently for the hearing. Your applications have been granted today, subject to the recommended conditions, and you'll receive written notification of the decision within 7 days, and your licences will be issued to you in due course. And future applications for occasionals have been delegated to officers to deal with while we're processing your major variation application. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I can confirm that this hearing has now concluded. Thank you for your interest in this business, and thank you for attending today, Mr. Stewart. I will now ask you to leave the meeting.
And I can confirm he has left.
Okay, so item 10 has been withdrawn from our agenda today. So we can now look at item 11, which has licensing provisions for the World Cup. So there has been some discussion already in relation to the licensing subcommittee in terms of the use of public halls and public entertainment licenses. Today we'll be looking at the liquor licensing aspect of the World Cup. I think, Fiona, you're presenting the report.
I am, convener. And I have a bit to say about the report. As we all know, the Scottish football team has qualified for the World Cup for the first time in a long time. This is being seen as an event of national significance by the Scottish Government, and rightly so. However, due to the time difference between America, where the tournament is taking place, and the UK, it has thrown up a few issues in relation to the showing of live televised matches during the tournament, both within our public and community halls, but also within our licensed premises. An officer working group was set up consisting of the licensing and licensing admin team in conjunction with Police Scotland and the licensing standards officers to consider options in relation to licensed premises and public halls. As our current policies do not cover such a situation, and we are looking at our ability to enable matches to be shown without putting a significant strain on our resources. In relation to the board, officers are asking members to consider whether they wish to approve a general extension of trading hours, what those extended hours should be, and we're asking that any extension granted by the board be subject to a notification procedure. You will also note that Appendix 3 includes a list of proposed conditions. However, officer advice is that these be changed to advisories with a strongly recommended to comply with, rather than as conditions. That's due to ongoing debate at national level about whether a general extension can be conditioned. Before making a general extension of trading hours, the licensing authority must consult with the Chief Constable and licensing holders. Police Scotland have been involved in the process, and a questionnaire was issued to all licence holders seeking their views. The responses are included at Appendix 2 to the report and are summarised at Section 3.16 of the report for ease of reference. 46 out of 374 licence holders responded to the questionnaire. There are 4 options set out within the report for consideration by the board. Officers are recommending option 3 as the best option, with the board making decisions about what matches should be covered, what hours should apply, how far in advance notification should be made, and subject to the recommended advisories. Appendix 3 sets out the advisories, and Appendix 4 includes a list of dates and times of all matches in the World Cup tournament, and it's colour-coded to try and make it easier for yourselves to identify those matches that would be covered within existing hours, matches that might benefit from a late night extension, and those that may benefit from an early morning extension. Any general extension approved by the board will only apply for the duration of the World Cup tournament and will only apply to premises that currently have live and televised sport as an activity on their premises licence. Anyone wishing to show matches where they don't currently have this activity on their licence will require to apply for a major variation to add the activity to the premises licence. Guidance will be issued, but officers will be completely upfront with the trade about our ability to be able to grant such variations in time for the World Cup. We will always endeavour to do our best, but we can give no guarantees due to the timescales involved. Members should note that the Licensing Subcommittee made the following determination for public halls at their meeting on 20th of February. They agreed to grant a general variation to public hall conditions for the duration of the World Cup. That general variation applies to matches for home nations games, quarter-finals, semi-finals and the final. The times they decided on were 1 hour before the start of the match until 30 minutes after the match had finished. The notification form was to be used, and they asked for it to be submitted 21 days in advance. And unlike the board, the conditions proposed in Appendix 3 could be added on to the public hall licences because it was a variation of conditions. They also asked for a briefing note to be circulated on the outcome of the variation after the World Cup, including evidence from the police and the LSOs on compliance and any issues arising from it. Further issues to determine is if you are granting a certain amount of time after a match, does that include or exclude the 15-minute drinking up time? And a general extension does not preclude any person applying for an individual extended hours application to cover any of the matches not covered, and members' clubs can also apply for an occasional licence to allow non-members in to view football, and with the same hours, same matches and same terms apply in those circumstances. And in those circumstances, the advisories would be able to be attached as conditions to the licenses or extensions issued. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions, and over to the board members.
Sorry, I was muted there. Thank you. Lots to consider.
Oh, sorry, Chair, one thing I forgot. Officers have classed, and we hope the board will agree, that the occasion for occasional extensions and for occasional licenses is the World Cup tournament itself. And that will reduce the number of applications that would be required, because an occasional license could cover all matches within a 14-day period that are relevant, and an extended hours application could cover all matches within a 1-month period. So it reduces the number of occasionals that would be required for matches out with any decision that the board takes today. Apologies, I forgot about that.
No, okay, that's all important. Mr. Mason, please.
Yeah, it was just the there's only one awkward clash on the round of 32 if both home sides, if any of the home sides get through. We've got a match starting at 12 midnight and then a match starting at 4 a.m. How are we going to handle that? Does it? I mean, that's liable to finish at 90 minutes plus half an hour. That's 2 hours. So it's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning, and the other one starts at 15:45. Is that right?
I'm just looking for the appendix at the moment.
Yeah, that's the only one I can see that's going to cause any problem. But just in case that happens, like the sort of
Page 593. Yeah, I think the advice to give is we can't guarantee that a match will start on time, and we can't guarantee that there won't be extra time. VAR reviews. So I think that you consider something along the same lines as the licensing subcommittee, where you have the extension. If it starts within permitted hours, fine, you just have to look at a terminal hour. But if it starts out with excuse me, do you authorise the start of the extension a set amount ahead, and then for a fixed period after, so that covers if the match starts late because of weather conditions or runs on, rather than a specific time being proposed.
Right. Just in case that clash happened. It's only one I can see anyway, but yeah.
I think as the competition progresses, more and more of the matches fall within permitted hours anyway. Yeah. So the need for the general extension lessens, but there are still a couple of matches within the quarters and the semis that are potentially caught. At the moment, we don't know if England and Wales and Northern Ireland have qualified, but there's still that possibility. So, which is why you could decide Scotland matches only. You could decide home nations. You could decide all matches. So that's why we've colour coded the appendix that way.
I would have to put priority for the Scottish matches, really. Yeah, I think. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Ms. Black, please.
Yeah, thanks very much. I've got a couple of thoughts and clarifications. So obviously we've got to be cognizant of what the sub-licensing board subcommittee has already done to try and get consistency across the policy areas for everywhere. So just so it's easier to manage. We need to do whatever is best to try and make it as least onerous on the licensing team, in order to make sure that they have the capacity to deal with whatever notifications come in and potentials for occasional licenses as well. So they need to be taken into account. And the two things that I wanted to bring up, possibly otherwise for discussion maybe, is that we've never extended for another home nation when they've qualified for a tournament, if it's out of hours. So we've never, if England have got through, or Northern Ireland have got through, or Wales have got through to something for any tournaments, we're not in the habit of opening up for them for then. So, you know, I would be inclined to want to go for just Scotland games, but I am cognizant that the sub-licensing committee did all home nation games, as well as the quarters, semis, and the finals. So that's something to consider. And then there's also the legality of the potential of 24-hour continuous selling of alcohol, which, for the example that was just given forward, that potentially could happen on that occasion. But I think within the legislation, it does say that if the circumstances are exceptional enough to let that happen, and it is not routine, it can comply with the Act. Yeah. So if we considered that the circumstance of the World Cup tournament was exceptional, and Scotland being through was exceptional enough, it, you know, if that happened on occasion throughout this period of time, which is only 4 or 5 weeks, then would we be content with that happening? And is it legal? Basically, want absolute clarity on that, please, Fiona.
It would be if you define it as an exceptional circumstance, but also consider that by not, for example, if you look for Friday the 19th of June, Saturday the 20th of June, potentially you've got matches from 8 p.m. Right through to whenever the 5 a.m. matches. But if you're restricting the matches to Scotland or home nations, the only match that would qualify for an extension under a general extension, if you grant it, would be the Scotland match at 11 p.m. And the 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. Wouldn't be covered by the general extension. Anybody wishing to open for those could still apply for an occasional extension, if that's, you know, always with a proviso, if that's what you decide to do. But yes, you could determine that it's an exceptional circumstance. But I think the potential for 24-hour opening will be lessened the more refined you make the general extension in terms of what matches are covered.
Okay. There could always be, you know, like if we allow the sort of general extension, places might opt not to always be open if they thought it was a match that would be nobody that interested in, and it's very late at night and they've got to pay a lot of staff and or stewards. They might opt not to take up the offer. Miss Sullivan, please.
I was wondering if we'd done this before. I mean, people keep talking. I don't do football. Scotland haven't been in the Men's World Cup for ages.
1978.
1978?
Yeah, I remember it.
I could have sworn I saw them get an own goal once. Because I was annoyed about that. And I was born in 77, so that can't... Okay, anyway. So do we do it for anything else, or is it just because...
We haven't done to date.
Okay, I just sound really grumpy about it, don't I? It's like, what about the Women's World Cup? What about the Olympics? Do we want to drink during something else?
What I would say is...
Getting back on track, I would just say just the Scotland matches. That seems like it makes it easiest, doesn't it? So
this is the first time we've had such a huge time difference in any world tournament that has happened, but we've never granted one before. But each event would have to be considered on its own merits. So,
and they went to Argentina.
Yes,
quite a time difference. But
I think, like I said, I would just support Scotland. I don't really see the difference between home nations and everybody. You either do everybody or just Scotland.
You're obviously not a football fan. I think, I mean, this lies in the context of the Scottish Government coming up with this idea in the first place. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be doing it. Mr. Menard.
Yes. I'm inclined to go along the lines of the licensing subcommittee. Home nations, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and like that. I think that's the best way to go, because you've got a cross section of the population of Britain, should I say? So, yeah, give everybody a fair crack.
And that would tie in with your equalities duties as well.
Exactly.
Mr. Taylor, please.
Thank you, convener. I'm following Richard's views. I think, well, obviously, where the discussion has really revolved around about Scotland achieving this incredible feat at this stage. Let's hope it progresses. But our nation encompasses quite a number of others within the United Kingdom, and I'm sure that they too would be interested in seeing their teams. So my feeling would be it covers all home nations. As far as, and therefore agreeing with the licensing subcommittee, most of their comments I would support. I do have a little bit of issue in terms of only saying the quarterfinals, because as far as Scotland is concerned, they've never got out to the group stages, but we now have a round of 32 and a round of 16 before you actually get to the quarterfinals. So my thinking would be it needs to cover these round of 32 and a round of 16 as well, if the home nations get that far.
I think by making a decision to cover home nations matches, you would automatically be including them, any matches that fall within those rounds, if they succeed.
That's what I'm coming to, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, any other further comments? So it's option 3 that would be the recommended option. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a general extension for all matches, specific times, subject to notification, with specific conditions as set out, Appendix 3.
So
it would, yeah.
So basically, you would be agreeing to a general extension, and then within that, officers are asking you to decide what matches is that general extension to cover, what times, the notification process, and the advisories that would apply. And also then, once you've decided that, I would be asking for the equivalent for any individual applications for occasional extensions and occasional licenses. And also your drinking up time. Is any extra time going to include that or exclude that?
Okay, I would suggest the drinking up time could be included in a 30-minute period at the end, surely. But we'll hear what others think. Ms. Black, please.
Yeah, I was just saying, what page is it on? Because I was down in the matches and I was just like, where's option 3 again, to make sure in my notes I've got all the permutations of what you're asking us to look at. I think I do. So, I mean, I'm fairly clear in my mind what I'm content with and would be willing to put forward a motion at this point, but obviously we'll let others come in to discuss first.
Okay, thanks, Dawn. Mr. Menard, please.
I'm in agreement with you regarding the drinking up time. I think the 30 minutes after, including the drinking up time, would be adequate.
Okay, I'm just swapping pages here because I was wanting to look at the proposed conditions. To have a better look at those on page 586. Confirmation that the premises license does include live televised sport as an activity, because they don't all, and the World Cup matches in respect of which the extension will apply. So I think we're heading towards all home nations, quarters, semis and the final. anticipated maximum number of persons to be present on the premises during each match. I wonder if would they be able to work that out in advance?
The premises licenses all have capacity figures, and they should know which parts of the premises live and televised sports can be shown in. So it gives ourselves, the police and the licensing standards officer, an indication of how many are likely to be in the premises. So they should be able to work that out fairly easily. And there's a suggestion that they control entry by tickets, be that free tickets or whatever, just so that they know how many are likely to be attending in advance. It helps us to target our resources where they're most needed for any potential compliance issues.
Okay, one of the questions I've had since day one of this idea is the availability of qualified stewards. Because if we've got all these premises that are operating after 1 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
in practical terms, do we have enough stewards in Aberdeenshire?
The short answer to that is no, but premises license holders can put their own staff and themselves through to be licensed. But that's why we've also recommended that there are standards for volunteers and staff within the premises who are non-SIA registered, so that we're covering all the bases, because we can't dictate how many SIA stewards need to be there. The premises license holder has to assess the risks, and it could be that they assess the risk and say they don't need any. So we've covered all bases by putting in information about compliance with rules for SIA stewards and for volunteers and staff.
Okay, thank you. And then in terms of public halls that could apply for an occasional licence, they've not to operate under BYOB. They have to apply for an occasional licence if there's alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Crowson, please.
Thanks. So obviously sitting having discussed this in the sub-licensing committee as well. I do think it should be open to all the home countries for their games, but it would still need absolutely emphasised. It's because Scotland has qualified for the first time in a long time. If we don't want to set precedent, that we then have to do this anytime that any of the other countries was to qualify for the World Cup, basically. But the wording is. We would have
to go through the same process for any future requests to establish what demand there was, and bring a report to the board for determination. So each case is on its individual merits.
And also in the stewards as well, as you were saying, volunteers or existing staff could have to go through training. So technically this could actually leave a little bit of a lasting legacy, whereas a lot more people could end up having training just in their day-to-day job in the pub that wouldn't have required it before. So it could be a good thing.
Okay. So any further comments or questions? So, Miss Sullivan, please.
Is the recommendation to go for just home matches, home nation matches?
The recommendation is to go for a general extension. What that extension covers is for the board to decide. And your discussion today has appeared to rest with either Scotland matches or home nation matches, similar to the licensing subcommittee decision. Plus, I think the quarters, the semis and the final.
Okay. I still think it would be easier just to do all of them. I mean, what if they have a group stage, right? At the beginning. What if there's a match between two non-British teams, and depending on who wins, that's whether Scotland goes through or not? Then lots of people might want to go watch that, because I'm just guessing here. So anyway, yeah. Plus, it seems unfair on if we if we're going to make a special case for non-Scottish teams, then surely it should be all non-Scottish teams because we don't play as Britain in football. So
I think the way it works is if Scotland's knocked out, we start supporting somebody else from the home nations. So there's a greater interest than there would be watching Brazil and Spain. Unless they get to the final, then we'd all be interested in watching. So, do we agree to a general extension? I would say the answer to that would appear to be yes.
Yep.
Which matches? Home nations, quarters, semis, and the final. Timings, late night, early morning. We've not had a discussion really on timings because the timings are all different. So I think the case of timings would be to fit with the timings of the matches. And the not permitting 24-hour opening comes in there.
So,
but it's a significant event. So in this case, could we dispense with that?
can I go back to hours first, convener? Are you looking at a set time after a match finishes where it, say, starts at 12 midnight or 1 o'clock? What about any matches that start, for example, 3, 4, 5 that potentially fall within? I'm not saying any will. Are you going to say they can stay open all night until half an hour after the end of the match? Or are you going to say, and I'm you know, this is your decision. Are you going to say that the extension will apply from 1 hour before to half an hour after, or similar? And depending on what you decide there might impact on your event of national significance for 24-hour opening.
Yes, just thinking that indeed, because if one match, say a match finished at 2 a.m, but the next one wasn't due to start till 3:30.
And a lot of the earlier matches, if you go with home nations, would be out with the scope of the general extension, but we don't know if home nations qualify for the round of 32, for example. We don't know which ones will be the late matches and which ones will be the earlier ones. So it would apply from there. And there's a couple in the round of 16 before the quarterfinals as well. So I think you need to determine, are you just going to go so that they can trade right up till the end of a match, regardless of what time that match starts, or if they have to stop and start effectively?
I think that would be really difficult to do, having people coming and going. But I'll leave to others to see what they think. Ms. Black, please.
Yeah, like I said, I had my ideas for a motion. So if I can read that out, and then in light of the most recent discussion there on the point of the continuing open time, might need to reword some things. But what I've got is to grant a general extension of hours out with normal licensing hours solely for the showing of live World Cup home nations matches and the key end of tournament matches, quarterfinals, semi-finals and final, by virtue of being events of national significance in premises that already have live televised sport on their existing licence operating plan, with a time limit of 30 minutes after the conclusion of a late match to include drinking up time and 1 hour before kick-off for an early match. Additionally, a 21-day notification process must be adhered to by licensed premises that wish to take advantage of the extended hours provision. I'm not sure whether we can say must because of what Fiona said before. And all decisions be delegated to officers in order to allow timious processing of applications unless they feel an application is contentious. So delegation will include consultation with the convener or vice convener to allow a timious decision.
I'm just listening, thinking that sounds good, but have we covered everything?
Have we covered everything? Yeah. Fiona can tell me.
Mr. Mason, please.
Yeah, if a match starts after 3 o'clock, then I think we'll have to do the we can't continue on until that time. It has to start in the morning, so they have to come in early in the morning to start the football match. But anything that's after 12, if it starts 1 o'clock, I think we'll just wait till the finishing time. Well, we're going to have extra time. There's bound to be extra time in some matches. There always is. So we've got to consider that. So what if it starts at 1 o'clock, then we can just carry on till it finishes. But if it starts at 3 o'clock, then the pub closes and it opens at 3 o'clock in the morning.
We need to open earlier than that if the match starts at 3 o'clock.
Well, it's 4 o'clock actually.
Some of the matches are 3, some are 4.
I haven't seen any 3 o'clock. Where's the 3 o'clock ones?
There's a 4 o'clock one on Friday, the 3rd of July in pink.
Yeah.
And there are
That's
2
right,
3
yeah.
o'clocks on the 28th of June.
There's 2:30 a.m. 2:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
Yeah. But these are not necessarily matches that would fall within the remit of the general extension because they're non-home home nations.
Well, we don't know yet.
For some of them.
Sorry?
Yeah, we don't know for some of them.
Yeah, well, that's right, yeah.
So, Trevor, are you suggesting a break? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, well, otherwise we're going to have drinking all the way around the clock, 24-hour drinking. And anyway, if someone's waiting for a 4 o'clock kickoff, they're going to be pretty mangled by 4 o'clock if they stay in the pub that long. So I don't think that's a good idea.
So you're recommending for those matches that start later that they open an hour earlier, half an hour earlier, something like that?
Yes, yeah.
Until so much, was it half an hour? I think Dawn mentioned after the match.
Yeah.
After the match,
I said an hour before early matches and half an hour, including drinking up time after matches.
Okay, Mr. Goodall, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Ewanson. Yeah, my question was actually, or my part of the discussion was very close to what Trevor just said, but it's going to be difficult to police this. If we've got a match starting at 2 or 3 in the morning and the standard license finishes at 11 or 12, that's going to be difficult because people will not be wanting to go home for that 1 or 2 hours, and they'll want to stay in the pub. So I don't even know how to get out of that one, because we don't have the police force or the bodies to do anything about it. But that's what may happen. So how do we deal with it? Can we deal with it?
We do have Sergeant Webster and our LSOs present if you want to ask them.
I just think it doesn't sound practical, having people to leave and come back again. I can't see that happening in some situations. I mean, if you're using taxis to get about and maybe go a fair distance, you're not going to go home and come back again. It'd be more practical to stay and make sure they have provision of soft drinks and some sausage rolls. Mr. Crowson.
Yeah, something after listening to everything that's been said in this discussions and that, and having been a publican while the 24-hour licensing was allowed for the millennium, and actually seeing how that sort of drifted off after it, I'm actually starting to think that it's the 24-hour licensing bit that's the sticky bit, and that actually whether a match was to be on late at night after the hours is finished or early in the morning, I actually think that the simplest thing to be would be to allow the places to apply for 24-hour opening, but only if it's a ticketed event, and that would keep some control on who is actually staying back for that event through the hours, and it would actually be less complicated for the people holding the event, for the people trying to police the event, for worrying about crowds leaving within half an hour of a match finishing all at the same time and then reappearing again later on. It's just, but maybe I'm a bit late coming up with that opinion, but
Bear in mind that we can't condition that the advice is these are advisories only that we recommend, but we can't force a license holder to comply with. So we wouldn't be able to stipulate that it be ticket only. We can only recommend that that's something that the license holder considers.
I actually think the 24-hour opening would probably police itself better because and I know what Trevor's saying about people being drunk by that time, but then if I'm still a believer that when people sort of are allowed to see themselves out or pace themselves or not, that there is sometimes less fighting and aggravation and stuff when people leave at different times than there is when you actually put them all out at the same time. And then what do they do between that time and coming back for the next match? Could be go home and actually drink lots of cheap alcohol and try and keep themselves going and then appear back at the premises and stuff. I actually think that the 24-hour opening could be the thing to actually let happen.
Yeah. There's also the suggestion, I mean, I agree with what you're saying there, Jeff. If people had to go home and come back again, what would they be doing? But I mean, they might just, if it was a couple of hours and it was in a town, they might just choose to hang around the streets for a couple of hours, and that would be more of an issue, I think, than having them in a venue. Miss Sullivan, please.
Do we have a police officer still with us?
Yes, Sergeant Webster's with us.
Okay. I was just wondering about, well, we know that in England, domestic abuse goes up when England football are playing, whether they win or whether they lose. Incidents of domestic violence go up, and they go up more when alcohol is involved. So is that likely to be the same in Scotland? I mean, should we be looking at this as a public health issue and just not change the hours at all? Thank you. I'm just asking for a police perspective.
I don't have any statistics to hand in relation to that, but when alcohol is involved, domestic incidents do tend to increase, whether or not football is actually part of the reason for behind it. Is it a possibility that the number of incidents could increase? Possibly, but if you're not going to look at a general extension, then people will be looking for applying for occasional licenses in relation to every single event that they're actually looking to be open for, unless your decision is that you're not going to be willing to accept any occasional licenses. Then rather than solving a problem, that would create a problem for the number of incidents that would actually have to be processed for each and every single individual pub that's looking to show the football. There's also a financial, not just an implication for the processing of it, there's also a financial implication to the council in relation to it, because the application is only going to bring in around about £10, but would it cost probably over £100 to actually process each and every individual one. Should everyone actually look to do an occasional license for each one, there is going to be a significant implication of that as well. But whether they actually go to drink in a pub or whether they actually go to drink at their home address, they might still be consuming alcohol wherever they are, and the consumption of alcohol is a known factor to increase the number of domestic incidents. Having them potentially having them in licensed premises with more control means they're actually in public, which means that if somebody actually sees something happening, they can actually call the police and prevent anything from happening, rather than being behind closed doors at home by themselves. Unfortunately, we are never going to manage to stop incidents of domestic violence within the home address when we've got no control over what happens when the door is shut. We can try and do as much as we can to deal with it and put advice and support in. But if people decide to drink at home, then there is no further control we actually have for it.
Fair
Does
enough.
that
Thank
answer
you.
the question?
Damned if we do and damned if we don't, basically. Thank you.
Mr. Goodall, please.
Fiona's got her hand up. Maybe she'd be better coming
Do
in.
you want to come in here, Fiona? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It's just to bring you back in a bit to what it is you're being asked to decide, and the general extension is for events of national or local significance. I appreciate where Ms. Sullivan's coming from with domestic violence and alcohol, but that's anecdotal evidence. It's not direct evidence that you have before you today that's formed part of the consultation exercise. So be careful about bringing in things that you don't have actual hard and fast facts in the board report for, but tie it into what you're actually being asked to do. Do you consider it appropriate in connection with a special event of local or national significance, determine and extending licensed hours? I mean, incidents of domestic violence could happen with somebody drinking in a pub during the existing permitted hours. You can't, there's nothing before you in concrete to say that extending those hours will exacerbate the domestic violence. I'm sure the anecdotal evidence is right, but I need to rein you back in to what the test is. Scottish government are pushing this as an event of national significance. So is that something you agree with? And based on that event of national significance, do you wish to make a general determination to extend the licensing hours in those circumstances? So be careful about what evidence you're taking into account there.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, your hand went down because it thought you spoke, so I'll bring you back in.
Yeah, I wasn't actually going to say anything further because it's been covered by Fiona and Sergeant Webster, because I do agree that there's more control within a pub or a club environment rather than at home, not only for domestic violence, but for other kinds of violence. Hopefully, because it's behind closed doors, you don't know what's going on. It's one of the reasons I despair at the loss of properly controlled pubs in this country, because I think one of the reasons we've got more, and I'm going off on a wee one here, and I shall shut up.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor, please.
Interesting discussions, and I'm going to come down on the side of practicality. The individuals possibly going away to come back again. Also, I find the argument of keeping the public within confines of a pub, a hall, or whatever, at least they're manageable and controllable, which I find quite compelling. That's not to say that there will be individuals maybe only watch the first match. There will be some that'll go home and forget about the later one for whatever reason. So there's a number of permutations here, but keeping public within the confines of the licensed premises appears to me to be very sensible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crowson, please.
Just to check, if it was simplified and if there was a match out with normal hours and a premise was to apply it for 24-hour opening to cover that hours, they wouldn't be obliged to stay open for the 24 hours. They could advertise the time that it would suit them to stay open for the match. And how does John Webster feel about the conversations that's been had so far around that suggestion as far as policing is concerned? Would that actually reduce the policing if the pressure on the policing if people aren't being put out on the street to then have to come back a short while after?
Can I clarify there, Jeff? Is that on individual occasional applications or on a general authorisation?
I'm wondering if a general authorisation is easier to put out, or I'm thinking about your staffing levels as well, and all this individual applications that would come in.
For a general authorisation, if you're not going to put a start time on, then they could open right the way through to the end of whichever particular match it is. And that might then take them into their opening hours for the next day. Nothing in a general extension forces a premises to open to show matches. They don't have to take advantage of it. That's part of the legal test that, you know, if we put out a general extension, it's the premises choice whether or not they're going to open, which is why we're asking for a notification procedure so that we know which premises are opening or not. And that would be whether you put in an opening time or till 30 minutes after the end of the match. If you're granting a general extension, you're granting it because you consider the World Cup as an event of national significance, and that therefore would tie in with your opening in exceptional circumstances around the clock. I'll let Sergeant Webster talk about enforcement, but the whole point of the notification would be for those premises that are opening, they would let us know which matches they're opening for. That information is shared with the LSOs and the police so that they know where best to target the resources on the night. Does that make sense?
Yes, but is there a way of doing the second one that you just said, but for it to be a 24-hour extension, but for them to notify you to apply for the 24-hour extension as opposed to just the limits on finishing half an hour after the match?
Well, they wouldn't have to because they've got their permitted hours on their licence to trade anywhere from 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning anyway. So out with the general extension, they're trading their normal hours on their licence, but that makes it into 24-hour opening for some cases. If we get individual applications for 24-hour opening, that's out with the terms of the board's policy, unless the board dictate otherwise to us for the World Cup, and that would mean the application being put to the convener first and potentially thereafter to a hearing of the board. Every individual application for an occasional must have a start time and a finish time.
I think I'm going to go across to Sergeant Webster just to get the police perspective.
In relation to the enforcement of it, the advantage of actually us knowing which premises are actually going to be open will be able to allow us to know which premises we need to actually have officers in the area in and around, knowing which places we need to, which are potentially having issues previously, but also having people within the premises. They have, as part of their licence, a duty of care towards anyone who actually drinks within their premises. They are not allowed to serve anyone who is intoxicated. They've got an aftercare duty in relation to once the person actually leaves the premises as well. So whilst they're within the premises and drinking, there's an awful lot more control in relation to what they are doing. And that is down to the licensee managing that, knowing that the option would be, should there be issues that they can't deal with, they can contact the police for assistance in relation to it. Having people leave the premises and come back, I mean, it's one of those things that it's just down to the timing of some of the matches. Should somebody choose not to show the Haiti versus Scotland at 2 a.m, but decide to show the Australia versus, if it happens to be a home nations that's to be confirmed, that means if there's no control over that whatsoever, somebody could actually continue through without showing the Scotland match to continue through at 5 o'clock in the morning. There's no way that we can actually tell somebody whether or not they're going to stay open for a particular match, because the general extension gives them the option to do it. It's not you will do it. And it's very much going to be kept down to the individual premises to self-regulate and manage themselves. But should they actually be found to have exceeded what they're actually doing or fail to comply with the regulations they've actually got under their license to operate in that premises, then that can then be brought to the board at a later date. It's not in their best interests for them to exceed anything themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I still just feel as though we're missing something that simplifies what we're trying to achieve here, and don't know if there's can a general extension for 24-hour opening, if there's a match on at that time, have a condition on it?
We can't condition that it'll be an advisory only. Jeff, we can't condition.
Ms Sullivan, please.
Did Dawn's motion cover everything, including the possibility that if this general extension meant 24 hours in those particular circumstances, it would be allowed? Did it tick all the boxes?
Ticked all the boxes if you agree that it applies to home nation matches only, the quarters, the semis and the finals.
I'm not about to yuck anybody else's yum, so can I second Dawn then?
Yeah.
Maybe we could.
He could do.
Get something decided.
I see Mr. Taylor's got his hand up in the meantime, though.
Yes, we've had much discussion over the 24-hour opening, and to me it just begs the question, just how many times may this event happen, i.e. And are we really think, if it's 2, 3, 4 times in the entire World Cup, it mightn't even be that. Is it worthy of much concern, ultimately?
Yeah. I was thinking that. We've got a general extension to sort of allow for all eventualities that might only happen once, if that. So are we happy then to go to Ms Black for her motion, which Ms Sullivan is happy to second? Does that cover everything?
Yeah, can I just say something first, if that's okay?
Yeah.
With the discussion and the discussion around not shutting if there is a gap between matches, between the 30 minutes after a match and the 1 hour before the match, is it competent to then take out the stipulation of 1 hour before a match? Yeah.
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 And would that then cover us so that we're just saying they can stay open until the end of 30 minutes after the end of a match that they're staying open for, and then that would take them from potentially their 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock normal shutting time to whatever time the match starts and to the 30 minutes afterwards.
Yeah, for those matches, the home nations
the home nations ones that don't open. So if someone's license ends at 12 o'clock, they're able to stay open until the 2 o'clock to then extend. Right, okay, so if I have amended my wording then to take out that little clause, and then the other bit that I needed to check with you was I had put in that they must do the 21 days notice. Are we allowed to say must?
Yes.
Yes.
It will be. That'll be part of the resolution that they've got to do that.
Right, okay, so would people like me to read it out again?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that we're granting a general extension of hours out with normal licensing hours solely for the showing of live World Cup home nation matches and the key end tournament matches, the quarter, finals, semi-finals and final, by virtue of being events of national significance in premises that already have live or televised sport on their, or live televised sport, because it has to be lived, on their existing licence operating plan, with a time limit of 30 minutes after the conclusion of a late match to include drinking up time. Additionally, a 21-day notification process must be adhered to by licensed premises that wish to take advantage of the extended hours provision. All decisions in relation to World Cup occasional licenses will be delegated to officers in order to allow tedious processing of applications unless they feel an application is contentious. So delegation will include consultation with convener or vice convener to allow a tedious decision.
The only other thing would be that you agree that the occasion is the World Cup.
Yes.
And not the
Yes.
individual matches, to cut down on the number of applications that we needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I wrote in there all decisions
Yeah.
in relation to World Cup occasional licenses.
Yeah.
If that needs to be tweaked to make it.
No, that's fine.
more-
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So World Cup tournament, I think, was the wording in the report somewhere, the full title.
Yeah.
So are you still happy to second, Mel? Okay, Mr. Crowson?
Sorry to be a pain. I just wanted to question one part of that, is the national significance. Because when does it become national significance again? Is that every time a home nation qualifies? Or is it Scottish national significance? And I'm not saying that to be,
No, I know.
to make sure it doesn't, you
In
know,
this-
that it's stated for why we are doing it just now, that it doesn't then fall on us every 4 years.
In this instance, it's the Scottish Government that are saying the World Cup is an event of national significance, and that carries weight.
So should that wording have Scottish national significance?
Doesn't have to if the board wants the home nations to be included in it. Because the difference in Scotland, to put it into context, the difference in Scotland is that unlike England and Wales, where the legislation permits the Home Secretary to grant a general extension for events of national significance, which they've done,
Right.
in Scotland, there's no provision in the legislation, so it's down to each individual licensing board to determine that it's an event of national significance. Scottish Government would like some consistency, so they are terming the World Cup as an event of national significance to
So
try and ensure
if-
consistency.
So if Scotland didn't qualify next time, they wouldn't declare that, so therefore we would be facing
Yeah,
just because Wales qualified or Ireland qualified
Yeah.
or England qualified, right? And I wasn't saying that just to try and get the word
No.
Scottish in there.
No, but also, Jeff, in 4 years' time, it'll be in a different location, different set of
Yeah.
circumstances. And if a general extension is
Right.
sought by the trade, it'll go through exactly the same process, and you will make a decision based on the evidence that we present to you at that time. So you are not setting a precedent. You're dealing with the circumstances
That
of
was-
this World Cup only.
Okay, I'm happy. Thanks.
Okay. Right. So are we happy to go with that motion as seconded, or is there an amendment? No. Excellent. So that's, I hope somebody's written all that down.
I've emailed it to Fiona.
got
It's
it, I
okay.
got
But no, that's been a good discussion, and there's a lot to consider in licensing terms with this idea. And we just hope it actually goes well for Scotland, and we actually want to be watching these games with
And
somebody to support.
It was 98, not 78. So I did remember right.
98.
Do you wish the same briefing note afterwards that the licensing subcommittee have
I
asked
think
for?
so, yes.
Happy
Yeah.
for that. Yep.
Okay, so the remaining matter we have today is the date of the next meeting, which is the 29th of April. So can members please note that date? And I can confirm the meeting is now concluded and that the recording will be stopped. So thank you for your interest in this business and your participation in the meeting today. So we'll just wait for the recording and the live stream to go off.
I can confirm the recording